Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we will discuss about designing classroom tests, specifically test types, together with my group mates Hani Reyes and Donna Jean Maluluyon. We will impart new knowledge on how to create or how to design a classroom test in a classroom setting and what are the types of tests. But before we proceed to our proper discussion, let us define first our guide question in this discussion. First, what is test? What is the purpose of tests, and what are the types of tests, and why we give tests? And now let us define what is test. Tests are tools which measure the quality and quantity or performance of the students. Aside from that, another definition, a test is a systematic procedure for measuring an individual's behavior. It is an information about learners' behavior, usually through paper and pencil test. So, as an explanation, what is test all about? Test is very common in a classroom setting because it is a procedure intended to establish the quality performance or the reliability of something, especially before it is widespread use. Now we already defined what is test all about. Now let us proceed to the what is the purpose of tests. Now we already define what is test, or we already know the meaning of test. And now let us proceed. What is the purpose of tests? They are used to determine whether the students have learned on what they're expected to learn or the level or degree which students learn the materials. They may be used to measure learning progress and achievement and to evaluate the effectiveness of educational or programs. So what is the purpose of test? Why I am creating test? Why was it created by someone else? For an evaluation or overall performance or to measure achievement? There are one explanation of the purpose of test because the purpose of test is to uncover all assessment used to determine the knowledge, ability, experience, and competence in and outside the formal learning setting and establish the major purpose or objective to a test that you can determine its purpose and objective. And that is the purpose of test. So we already know what is the purpose of tests, and now let us proceed. Why do we give tests? First is to evaluate students' progress in the subject within a period of time and to assess students' strengths and weaknesses in a focus, assistance, or individual instruction, and to determine who will receive rewards, recognition, and scholarship, and to provide basis of qualification for entry into a school, program, internship, and higher education, and also scholarship, to gain college credit advance for placement exam, and to measure teacher or school's effectiveness. So this is the very common why do we give tests to a certain students, or why we design classroom tests in every student, because tests have many purpose in our schools to assess students' understanding or a given topic within a subject and identify what they have learned in a certain discussion. So testing is a part of learning and let students show what they have known and what they can do. Tests also result show students strengths and weaknesses, and you will learn their weaknesses or strength in a certain subject or areas that the students excel. So that is why we give tests, is to measure the knowledge, ability, competence of a students. Now we already know why do we give tests, and now let us proceed to what are the test types question on how can we design a classroom test that can be suitable in this classroom setting or students. So let us define the two types of tests, and that are the subjective and the objective type. So let's begin with subjective, that usually essay or brief answer of a certain question. Teachers requires a particular information or answer, meaning criteria, couple of words or several paragraphs. So the subjective type, it pinpoints the subjective items that include, for example, short answer essay, extended response essay, or the problem solving, or a performance test. That the subjective means an individual who takes a standardized test. So let's proceed to the objective types of question. So it is defined, it requires correct factual response from two or more sources. Objective items include multiple choice, true or false, matching type, and completion. Objective test is a test that has no right or wrong answer, so can be marked objectively. It compared to or within a subjective test, which evaluated by a giving opinion, usually based on agreed criteria. So, for example, of objective test, true or false question based on the text, which is can be used a objective test of question or objective type of activity. And that is the two types of test types questions. And now we already know what is test, what is the purpose of test, why do we give test, and what are the two types of test. Now let us proceed to the types of test. The first task you will face in designing a test for your student or in a classroom setting is to determine the test. Defining your purpose will help you to choose the right kind of test, and it will also help you to focus on the specific objective of the test that would probably help students in measuring their capacity. This part will be discussed by Donna Jean Manuluyon and Hani Reyes on what are the types of tests, the disadvantages and advantages of that test, and their specific examples.
Now, let's proceed to the different types of tests, and let us first talk about the language aptitude test. So, this type of test is constructed to assess the capacity, or shall we say, the general proficiency to learn a certain language and the ultimate success in that undertaking. So, the language aptitude tests are standardized and great for the reliability and validity of the results. Also, it is cost effective for it is easy and they are outsourced and can be carried out on laptops and computers. In line with that, these tests will determine an individual's weaknesses, which will help a company and a school to determine the training programs needed to implement for individuals to improve those specific skills. Those are the advantages of the language aptitude test. In contrast to that, this test also has its downfall or disadvantages, like test anxiety. An example for this one is when you've done all your homework and studied hard and you think you have grip on the material, but then the day of the test comes, suddenly you blank out, freeze up, zone out, or feel so nervous that you can get it together to respond to those questions in which you already know the answers just last night. Another disadvantage is incomplete assessment. This means that you have not completed the assessment for this subject. If the assessment is not completed within 12 months of the result, then the subject will be marked as failed. Also, this test has no consideration for soft skills. Second, the diagnostic test. So this test measures the knowledge and skills of students and is used to identify students' strengths and weaknesses in past and present learning. This test advantage is that it can determine what students already understand about the concepts and skills to be covered by instruction, also to test the IQ level and students' ability. However, this can harm the students' mindset and can affect their confidence level, which resulted as the disadvantage of this test. Third, the proficiency test. It is the test that is designed to measure people's ability in language, whether they have any training in that language or not. The good thing or advantage of this test is that it is a valuable tool for facilities to compare their performance with that of the other participants in the same program. On the other hand, proficiency tests become the club of choice to bash public schools in general and teachers in particular, which appears to be its disadvantage. The fourth type of test is the achievement tests. So these tests are designed to measure the performance of the student in specific academic areas such as reading comprehension, written or oral expression, and it includes mathematical computations. Other examples include the written and driving tests, taken to secure driver's license, the Scholastic Assessment Test or SAT, and American College Test or ACT, taken by high school students contemplating college, and the Graduate Records Examination or the GRE, taken by college students who want to go to graduate school. The advantages of this type of test are that it provides a standardized measure of results for each student's homeschool program, and the results of the test provide a benchmark from which to compare success over time. Furthermore, achievement tests don't always test what you teach and are not a good fit for some students. Also, achievement tests can never measure the most important parts of homeschooling, which leads to the disadvantage of these tests. The fifth type of test is the placement test, which is the test that is usually given to a student entering an educational institution to determine specific knowledge or proficiency in various subjects for assignment to appropriate courses or classes. The advantage of this test is that it assists colleges in developing remedial curricula tailored to incoming students, particularly in learning deficits, and ensuring that students with knowledge gaps receive the basic skills they need to succeed in college. On the other hand, the test method has disadvantages. They show the final answer, disregarding the mind process of the students that led to this solution. The personal abilities and attitudes of every student cannot become evident from the test alone, since the test stresses only on certain characteristics. So far for that, let's go forward to the sixth type of test, which is the essay test. This is an essay type question that requires the pupil to plan his answer and to explain it in his own words. The pupil exercises considerable freedom to select, organize, and present his ideas. Essay type tests provide a better indication of a pupil's real achievement in learning. The essay questions are generally thought to be the traditional type of questions that demand lengthy answers. They are not amendable to objective scoring as they give scope for halo effect, inter-examiner variability, and intra-examiner variability in scoring. The advantages of this test are that logical thinking and critical reasoning, systematic presentation can be best developed. It helps to induce good study habits, such as making outlines and summaries, organizing the arguments for and against. The students can show their initiative, the originality of their thought, and the fertility of their imagination as they are permitted freedom of response. The responses of the students need not be completely right or wrong. All degrees of comprehensiveness and accuracy is possible. Though, one of the serious limitations of the essay tests is that these tests do not give scope for a larger sampling of the content. You cannot sample the course content so well with 6 lengthy essay questions as you can with 60 multiple choice test items. Moreover, scoring may be affected by spelling, good handwriting, colored ink, neatness, grammar, length of the answers, and others. The long answer type questions are less valid and less reliable, and as such, they have little predictive value. It requires excessive time on the part of students to write while assessing. Reading essays is very time consuming and laborious. So those are just some of the disadvantages and advantages of essay tests.
Matching tests. Matching tests are another important form of test that can be seen in any classroom. Matching tests are designed taken in order to assess the student understanding of relation between events and dates, events and places, and so on. Advantages. Matching types items usually requires less time for test takers to answer. They are easy to score and grade. The distractors may be provided. Disadvantages. Answers are already provided, which make it prone to guesswork. These items do not allow test takers to demonstrate knowledge beyond the choices. Multiple choice test. It is a common form of tests that are taken in any classroom. These tests are taken in order to assess the complex concept as well as the simple understanding of the student. Multiple choice tests are specifically designed to determine the readiness of the student in answering specific questions. Advantages. Multiple choice questions usually requires less time for test takers to answer. They are easy to score and grade. They provide greater coverage of material and allow for a wide range of difficulty. They can easily diagnose a test taker's difficulty with certain concepts. They test many levels of learning as well as the test taker's ability to integrate information and can provide feedback to the test taker about why distractors were wrong and why correct answers were right. Disadvantages. Multiple choice items do not allow for test takers to demonstrate knowledge beyond the choices. They may encourage guessing or approximation due to the presence of at least one correct answer. Multiple choice items that are effective usually take a great time to construct. True-false test alternate response. True-false tests are specifically designed to determine the decision of a student on a specific question. This is probably one of the best ways to judge the concept of student. Advantages. True-false items can cover a wide range of difficulty levels. This requires less time to answer and are easily graded and scored. Disadvantages. These do not allow for test takers to demonstrate broad range of knowledge. Guesswork may work. Completion type provides a test taker with identifying characteristic and requires a test takers to recall the correct term. Students may guess but with more difficulty. This type of items is generally feared by students when no word bank is provided. What to look for on sentence completion test. What to look for on sentence completion test. Only significant words are omitted. When omitting words, enough clues are left so that the student who knows the correct answer can supply the correct response. Ensure the grammatical clues are provided. Performance test. Performance tests are devised in order to assess the expertise of the student in specific experiment. A specific time period is given to the student in order to conduct the experiment with maximum proficiency.
As the conclusion of this report discussion, there are five kinds of test types. First is the language aptitude test, proficiency test, placement test, diagnostic test, and achievement test. Additionally, we added more types of tests which is very common in a classroom setting like essay, multiple choice, completion type, performance test, alternate response, matching type, and many more. Every must be wonderfully innovative instrument that will garner the accolades of the colleagues and the admiration of the student in their learning process. The obvious point in the classroom testing is to assess what student have learned after the completion or the end of the lesson or the unit. When the classroom tests are tied to well-written lesson objective, a teacher can analyze or can foresee the feedback of the result where the students did well or not. Henceforth, tests or assessment also provide a positive feedback to inform teachers and learners about still unknown, thus providing important input to the content and methods of the future work. At the end of the lesson, we highlighted the important keywords or important factor in this discussion. I hope you will learn in this pre-recorded video. Once again, I am Fabrics Gio Narcet together with my group mates, Hani Reyes and Donna Jean Maluluyon, saying keep safe and keep learning.